It is the hottest ticket in town for week 2 in college football, Michigan and Texas. Everybody going crazy in anticipation of the showdown at the Big House, high noon on Saturday. Good afternoon, everybody. We're ready to dive in and talk some Michigan football on this Monday, on this Labor Day. Hope you're having a great one, and hope you were able to enjoy this weekend. I did, and now I'm looking ahead, and I am looking back. We will look ahead to the Longhorns coming up on Saturday at the Big House. We will start with some thoughts on the opener on Saturday with a little bit of time to reflect and let the dust settle. I rewatched the game yesterday morning after watching it late into the night on Saturday. My biggest questions about Michigan football heading into this season were 1, the quarterback, 2, the offensive line, and 3, the place kicker. I feel really good about Dominic Zavada. How could you not? Guy nailed all 3 field goals, 2 of them from 50 plus. And you check the Michigan record book, the record for most field goals of 50 yards or more in a career been done by a couple guys, but 4. Zavada's already halfway there, and it was his first game. Feel really good about him. And you watch enough football over the last couple of years, you see the legs of these kickers, and they're all blasting them like 50s nothing. And that one from 55, if you told me it was good from 65, I don't know, it looked like it could have been good from 65 when it's banging the back of the net like that. So those, the kicking, you feel great about. Quarterback and offensive line. When you have an opener, it's a first start. I think part of it is, that's not J.J. McCarthy, even though he looks a little bit like J.J. McCarthy and throws the ball a little bit like J.J. McCarthy. That is not J.J. McCarthy. That's Davis Warren. And I don't know how good Davis Warren is. I don't know where his floor is at. I don't know where his ceiling's at. I feel like if Jack Tuttle would have been healthy, maybe Jack Tuttle would have been the starter. It looked like it could very easily, even by Michigan's own admission, have been Alex Orji that they would have gone with on Saturday. The competition spilled into game week a week ago Monday. They didn't even have a decision. So there's a lot of things to like about Davis Warren. I was there today as he answered questions in front of the media, and he was impressive. Impressive in that when he first walked onto Michigan, he was preparing as a freshman like he was going to be the starter one day. Max Bredesen, who was his roommate, recalled him sitting on his iPad, knowing that nobody was going to play, and breaking down the game film and listening to him give his own self-assessment about his play. Said they left a little meat on the bone. There were some thoughts. I was thinking this about him, not so much telegraphing where he was going, but just relying on his first read. You can't really blame somebody in their first start. So much to process, so much going on. Hey, here's the call. Going to kind of lock on. That's where I'm going. Warren discussed going through multiple reads and progressing through and knowing pre-snap and post-snap, and then after the fact, looking back at it. And he was confident enough to say that's his thing. Going the progressions. Don't worry about that part if that was something that you're going to worry about. He feels like he's got a pretty good grasp on that. Now, we could say all we want about him, and everyone's going to root for him. He's the Michigan quarterback. Plus, he was a walk-on. And, in 2019, he was diagnosed with cancer, leukemia, and was able to battle through that, lost all of his hair and his color, and then walked on to Michigan, and here he is on the biggest stage leading the maize and blue out of the tunnel on Saturday, and he'll do the same thing against the Longhorns on Saturday afternoon. So, how confident will you be? They feel pretty confident talking about the team. That's good that they're confident about Davis Warren. He himself seemed pretty confident in his own abilities. There are a lot of questions about, hey, what about Quinn Ewers, who I saw in the new Dr. Pepper commercial over the weekend, and Quinn Ewers is in there dressed like a cop. What about the Dr. Pepper boy and Arch Manning? And it was like, let's go. He knows it's not him against Ewers and Arch Manning. It's him and Orgy against the Longhorns defense. So, there's just still a question mark there. But the good news about playing a team like Texas in week 2, we've said it all along. You doubt Davis Warren ability to push the ball down the field and knock out some home runs through the air. If he does it against Texas, well, then he will have alleviated some of those fears if you're a Michigan fan. The offensive line. Sharon Moore said today that he went back the last couple of years and looked at the openers for the offensive line between week 1 and week 2 and said it's vastly different. And you're counting on that if you're a Michigan fan, that the offensive line, that you saw the center getting pushed back 2 yards, you saw the right guard either losing communication with the guy next to him, the center on the left or the right tackle, and allowing a defensive tackle to run unabated to the quarterback and smash him into the ground. Those kind of mistakes, you say, yeah, you clean those up. Well, yeah, it's going to, for me, when it comes down to the offensive line, I believe that you're going to get better when you have game action and the adage of getting your most improvement through game 1 and game 2. I'm buying that as well. I'm also buying that Michigan, on their last drive when it counted, the defense gave up the only touchdown of the game, and the Bulldogs pulled within 6 points. The offense went out there and had their best drive of the game, 7 plays. The first 6 plays were runs. Edwards, Mullings, Orgy, Mullings. And then, hey, here's Warren finding Colston Loveland. Great game by the tight end from Idaho. Into the end zone, touchdown. Very impressive. Very impressive by the Michigan offensive line, the entire Michigan offense. So I hang your hat on that. Can that, give you a boost? Like, that's how it's done. When, whatever you want to say, their backs, I don't know if their backs were against the wall. They needed a drive. They needed to come out there and win the game there. It was winning time. So that was good. Overall, my impressions of the opener, the defense and the offense were great on their first 2 series. The defense got a pick. The offense took it down. Alex Orgy threw a touchdown to Donovan Edwards. Boom, you're off and rolling. You couldn't have had a better start. Great start by Michigan. The end. The offense, just mentioned, that 7-play drive when they went down the field, culminating in the touchdown pass to Colston Loveland. Great drive. Best drive of the game. Winning drive. Defense comes back. Pick 6 by Will Johnson, taking it to the house after he was challenged in that game by the Fresno State quarterback and wide receivers. So great job at the beginning, great job at the end. In the middle, a lot of things that you think about when you have an opener, that you have these kind of mistakes, that you shoot yourself in the foot, that there is some penalties, and there are a lot of different things to clean up. And then the fans we have been conditioned to overreact on everything. So you're going to say, this isn't a championship team. This team's not going to go to the college football playoff. This team's not beating Ohio State. This team. And so, but I don't know, you feel like that after watching it. But the good thing for me is that it doesn't really matter how you feel about it. Because they go out against Texas, and if they win that, you're going to feel completely different. If you don't feel good about Michigan heading in and they win, you're going to feel great afterwards. So you do know that. That's how I'm sitting, and that's what I feel about the game. What was the best part of the game? I feel like the best part was that first touchdown that Orgy threw to Donovan Edwards, and then I would go to Colston Loveland and his ability. And if you can get jacked up and excited about field goals, I would put that in the mix as well. Oh, excited about some field goals when they're long bombs like that. I think you can feel pretty good about that. Keegan calling him Darth Zavada. Okay, not bad. Kickin' Chicken said it was a bad watch for this offense. Yeah, I don't think everyone that knows Michigan football and talked about it all off season didn't say Michigan was going to come out of the gates firing and blasting the ball all over the field and making mincemeat out of everyone out there and running it back to defend their national championship with no bumps in the road. I don't know if anybody was saying that. I get what you're saying because it wasn't a thing of beauty. I think if you listen to people that said when you have a quarterback that's going to be a first-time starter and you're splitting reps right up until game time seemingly, and you have an offensive line that was all new starters, there was going to be a growing period. There was going to be a gelling period. There was going to be a developmental piece to this season. And that's what people that have watched college football and understand how the game works has said over the years. And you need to reload. The defense was being talked about in a great way because they got a lot of great players. And I didn't see anything to say, oh, I think the defense is in trouble now, or I don't think the defense is going to be able to keep Michigan in it. How quickly the offense is able to find some attraction and put up some points and be dangerous pushing the ball down the field and getting more wide receivers involved and finding Donovan Edwards, who's one of the best weapons in all of college football, finding Donovan Edwards, not now Donovan Edwards sucks. It's getting him going and beating Texas, and then it all changed. But I think talking about the offense, like in between the parts where they scored that last one and the first one, yeah. Gavin gets it. He's talking about growing pains. Aaron is talking about we need Will Johnson to score 14 a game, and then we're good. I like Will Johnson being tested like he was right off the bat. He looked like he almost had a pick six right off the bat. And old Mikey Keene, you could say maybe to his detriment, but he wasn't afraid of anything. He was throwing in us up tight windows. He was just, he's going to go at the number one corner. Then he's going to keep going at him, which is a little bit of a wild strategy if you're thinking about it. Like, okay, go at him once in a while. You're going to keep going at him. Like, okay. And it caught up with him. Not a smart move. I visited my friend one time in Florida, and he was part of the military in like super pararescue he was in, elite branch. And one of his teammates, one of his other person that was in the Air Force there, was this big guy named Lance, and we were out at Cocoa Beach, sitting out there, enjoying ourselves. And this guy Lance was as big as, I don't know, he was a monster. Like his arms were, this big around, everything else. And as I was standing there, somebody kind of walked past us and it kind of bumped into Lance. Like, why would you ever bump into Lance? It looked like he would take you and just rip you apart. And Lance was pretty nice. He says, oh, hey, excuse me, and everything else went by. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's pretty wild, coming in bumping you like that. And then Lance turned to me and said, there's a lot of people that like going after the champ, that like going after me just because I'm a big guy and they want to test me and they want to fight me just because I'm a big guy. They're like, and I think that's like with Will Johnson, you're out there like, hey, Will Johnson's the best corner. Will Johnson's going to be the number one corner taken in the NFL draft. Your Mikey Keene said, let's go after him. Let's test him. Let's go after the champ. And they did all right. It was like who was that guy? I saw it just on TikTok the other day as I was scrolling through. McNeely, I think his name was. Tyson gets out of jail. Mike Tyson. And the first guy he's boxing is some dude named McNeely, a big tomato can, an Irishman, comes out there. But McNeely, to his credit, I think he knocked him out in probably 60 seconds. But the first 45 seconds, McNeely was out there throwing haymakers at the champ and, mixing it up with him. And then Tyson just caught him a few times, uppercut, and then he was over. These guys like going after the champ. It's now, if I would have been in the Fresno meeting rooms, I'd have said, let's not go at Will Johnson. Let's go away from Will Johnson. Let's not throw his way at all. That's playing with fire. Now that's a fine line when you're in a spot in a big time college football game and you're wanting to win a game to know when what's the valor's the better part of discretion, knowing when to, you feel like we can't fear anyone, but why would you go at Will Johnson? I say all that to look forward to Texas, which I'll get to in a moment, but I want to get some other feedback here and see what the people are saying about the opener. SW Lion hoping for the best, but let's face it, it's a brand new offensive line, and there's a huge drop-off between JJ, Warren, and Orji. Yeah, that's it. I think that's okay. Yeah. New quarterback and a new offensive line. So can Michigan beat Texas? We're going to get to that. Can Michigan beat Texas? Mark says McCord and Aller looked a lot better. Big miss on McCord. USC looks great. Michigan has a lot to prove. Need a Georgia Tech versus FSU type upset. Yeah, I don't think it would be a Georgia Tech versus FSU type upset. The thing, you're right about McCord looked good throwing the ball for Syracuse. He was on point. And Aller, who I am not a big fan of, he looked pretty good. I have to admit, he looked good at West Virginia. That's what happens. You develop as a quarterback. He didn't look very good last year, but he put in the work, and now he's looking good. The thing that you're talking about, a big miss on McCord, Mark, if you go back and look at the timeline, JJ with Michigan winning the championship and then Harbaugh not leaving towards the end of January, you could have been talking to McCord behind the scenes. And I don't know the dynamic. I don't think there's ever been an Ohio State player that has gone to Michigan. It's worked in reverse a few times, but should they have been, hey, in case JJ goes, we want you? Probably there could have been make some overtures or something like that. But also McCord, I think he was already with Syracuse and already had that locked in when JJ was still making his mind up. So I think, I don't know. You can look at the timing and everything else, but from my memory, JJ let it play out until the end. And the quarterbacks, because Michigan was busy winning the national championship, the quarterbacks that were all eliminated, the guys like McCord, a month earlier, certainly after the Michigan game, he was looking to jump ship then. And Michigan had a lot of football to play still. So I think the part about they should have hit the portal harder, I think all of the portal was picked through. But I've been through that. We'll read some more. Michigan lover. Aller's the same. The OC is better. McCord's always good. He just got scapegoated. I think he did get scapegoated a little bit. I think you're right about that. I don't know. Aller last year, and he was overshooting guys by like 5 or 6 feet. Does it help to have an offensive coordinator that can, get you dialed in? Sure. Edwards is an RB2. We need to accept that. Yeah, I'm glad you, Michigan lover, that is the most Michigan fan thing that you could ever say after one game. Not thinking about what Donovan Edwards has done in his career and not being able to fit it all in there and have context. Donovan Edwards is one of the most dangerous running backs in all of college football. So you trying to put like a dunce cap on him and like, that's what it feels like to me. The people, he's running back too. I don't know. Mullings had a nice game and was running through the tackles or anything, but Let me put it to you like this, Michigan Lover 12. If Michigan is going to pull an upset against Texas, if Michigan is going to go to the college football playoff, it's going to be because, in a big part, because Donovan Edwards is one of the best weapons in college football, and he plays big in big games and scores lots of touchdowns. It's not because the fan base after one game is like, you're benched. You're relegated to running back 2. Mullings is going to get some more carries. Probably I'd take him off kick return. But I've got the weapon with Edwards. And maybe you're not all just down on him. And I don't know why I feel like Donovan Edwards mega triggers Michigan fans, which then in turn triggers me. And really, you're just saying Mullings had a really good game and Edwards didn't. So Mullings is running back 1 and Donovan Edwards is running back 2. But there's really nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. So it triggers me. So I got to get over it. D Original knew it. He said if Warren is the quarterback, Michigan is in trouble. Michigan in trouble. Is Michigan in trouble? One read, check down Davis. I get that, the original. He made it sound like he's ready to go through his progressions, and he's got a lot else going on there. Good afternoon. Big discussion 76. Looking pretty good. Les loves Michigan, but they created their own issues as far as the portal and Ward not supporting NIL, amongst other things. I disagree. I don't disagree that you love Michigan, but these are just things that fans say that aren't true. And I don't know exactly who to blame, but Ward not supporting NIL, I don't agree with that. And the way things have worked for Michigan with NIL up to this point, with Ward Manuel as athletic director, has been good. There's not even an argument for the other side. So save that for whoever else's podcast that likes to go on and talk about that. And I already talked about the portal. Those are talking points that just don't have any validity. That's off-season stuff that people say, I think, to try to fan the flames, to get you to like their podcast or give them a heart on Twitter or something. Come on, Les. I haven't even seen you here all year, and you come in with the 2 biggest talking points from the Michigan podcasters who, I guess they're podcasters. I don't know. I don't know where people get it from. I really don't know where. Oh, here is the great Trevor McHugh for the Maize and Blue Review. I've got something for you. And you know who I really got it for? Is Mark, that's on here, who joins us a lot, because Mark asks a lot of analytical questions. He asks a lot of different questions about the science of the game, how things are working through. Trevor puts out his stock report accompanied with videos, and he works through the game. That is on the Maize and Blue Review, and I encourage you, like, how many times do I sit here? I know you guys hear me every time I'm out here telling you to join up with the Maize and Blue Review today. If you just love Michigan and love to recap the game with somebody who's looking into the numbers and the analytics, well, it is the stock report brought to you by Trevor McHugh that it's good just for that. Now, there's probably 25 other things that I could list that is also that it's good for, but that is a standalone reason to join up the Maize and Blue Review today. You do that by going to michigan.rivals.com, and I guarantee you'll have a great time and get all the information that you want. Here's Trevor talking about NIL. So let's go and let's do it. Keegan is fired up. I am too. Let's get a few more in here and then we'll move on to Texas. Let's go. Michigan lover coming back. I'll let him get the last word. Donovan Edwards should play for sure, but Mullings should lead in carries. Great point about removing him from the kickoff. Yeah. Well, Sharon Moore was asked by an outstanding reporter today about what Khalil Mullings brings to the table in terms of a kick return. And I'll paraphrase it. First of all, he said he's great at catching the ball. The other thing he said is he's good at reading the blocks and setting up blocks. And I just think about, myself, just when I was thinking about kick returns, I was thinking about, I want somebody to just field it and somebody that can get to the goal line, to the 20. I know 40-yard dash is nice, but who runs the best 20? Who gets up to speed to the 20? And if you can find one crease, boom. But no, Sharon was saying that Khalil Mullings is really good at reading the blocks and how the blocks set up, which makes a little sense, as a running back. And, and even though he was over at running back. So that's what he brings to the table. It's not just flat out speed and the ability of what makes you a potentially a dynamic kick returner. But if you are getting more carries as running back, will you then, would this be the spot if you're getting a kickoff? Because there was an instance, I believe, I just saw this mention of that Mullings returned a kick. He returned 3 of them. So he returned it 24 yards or whatever, 25 yards. And then Michigan got into the huddle, and then they gave it to him right away on the first carry. Now, after you get out there on the kick return, you get out, you get a little bit of a break, but do you want your guy that may be leading you in carries to then have to get that carry after he, has a 20 or 30-yard return? I don't know. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. And where we sit right now. All right. So when it comes to Davis Warren, here's a good look at him from this afternoon. Standing up on the podium and answering the questions adroitly to the assembled media. He mentioned working with Tom House, worked with the same quarterback guru as J.J. McCarthy. He talks to J.J. McCarthy. He mentioned Brady in talking about going through the reads, and I said, Tom Brady? So I don't know. I thought, well, who else? What other Brady could he have been talking about? No, he was talking about Tom Brady. The more you know about the kid's work ethic, this quarterback, the more you hear about, the more I hear about Warren, the more I like him. The more he's got you want some swagger, you want some confidence. And I felt that today. And just hearing what kind of, you have to be able to study and know the film, but he seems like he's got that in spades. He knows this playbook. He knows this offense. That's what it felt like to me. And so asking him I don't know if the toughest question could be, why should you feel like you could be quarterback at Michigan? I liked his answer there. And then what about being a one read trick pony kind of thing? Like it felt like on Saturday, and he sent it back saying that was his, I'm paraphrasing it, best attribute, progressing through the reads and knowing where to go with the football. I like that. I like how he was able to answer that. So now I'm on to Texas, game 2, and the feeling about Michigan and their ability to beat Texas. Michigan is a 6.5-point underdog in this game. Michigan hasn't lost a non-conference home opener since Rich since Rich Rodriguez's first year against Utah. That was a weather game. I remember the end of that game was very bizarre. It was the first game that, at least I recall, watching a Michigan game and then with an empty stadium. Little did I know, a couple years later, all of the stadiums would be empty, including Michigan. But that is beside the point. That was when you could actually go into the game. There was weather. Michigan was getting beat. Most of the fans were like, we're out of here. We're going to the tailgate. And Utah won. So it's been a long time. I think Michigan is a live dog here. If Michigan plays like they did on Saturday, they're going to get beat by Texas. But I think Michigan in this game, I like the matchup. I like Michigan's corners. Texas has Quinn Ewers, the Dr. Pepper poster boy, commercial, Hollywood. They've got him. And he's an exceptional quarterback. And they've brought in a number of wide receivers out of the transfer portal. A.D. Mitchell is with the Colts. Xavier Worthy's catching passes for Patrick Mahomes. Should have been at Michigan, but he was catching them down in Austin. But they've hit the transfer portal with 3 live wide receivers, including Bond. Bond from Bama, who caught the miracle against Auburn. And, of course, Michigan will have some familiarity with Bond because they played him in the Rose Bowl. But the thing that jumps out about the Texas receivers is that they're fast. And they got a big tight end, and he's a good one. They did lose the running backs, and I think that is going to be key. I believe on the defensive side, they lost their 2 stalwarts on the inside on the defensive line, and they did go to the transfer portal. I think that Michigan, if this was last year, you'd say, they're not going to be able to run against Texas. And maybe they would have a hard time running against Texas. Who wouldn't, with the kind of guys that they had inside? But I think it's going to be different this year. I think it's going to be tougher to throw on Texas and easier to run. So I like the setup. As I view it on this Monday, I think this matchup is good for Michigan. And I think Michigan, with the defense that they have, with the pass rush, and I didn't mention much about the defense in the opener, but Josiah Stewart looks like he played like a high NFL draft pick. Derek Moore has always looked like a high NFL draft pick to me, and he looked like a high NFL draft pick on Saturday. You got 2 defensive ends like this that are, edge guys, whatever, that can get after the quarterback and cause Ewers problem. That's a big part. And the other thing that you're going to need is good cover DBs. I'm going to put a check mark next to Michigan when it comes to good speed cover DBs. Now, Jair Hill, he looked pretty good in the run game, and you know that he was my pick to click on defense, so I can't wait to see how he handles. I think maybe getting up on the line and jamming these guys. But because of the injuries at running back, being able to stay with these wideouts, that's the key to this game. And Michigan, that sets up well for them. And I think that they can run the ball against the Longhorns. So they're a live dog. Now, yeah, the quarterback and offensive line, which is we all thought was going to take time to develop, that's why Michigan's a 6.5 point underdog. Am I thinking that they're just going to flip the switch and look like they did on the last drive when they needed that touchdown and was able to tenderize the Fresno State front and then move the ball down the field and then hit Colston Loveland? I think it's a little bit of, it's not fool's gold, but it's a little bit of feeling like, all right, now they're good. And it's still probably going to take some time. And I know I watched USC just like you watch USC, unless you have the cable network that is blacking them out. I hate that. I saw people complaining about that last night. But USC looked tougher on defense, and they can really throw the ball. Woo, they got some wideouts And they got a good offense, and they look like they've improved on defense. So I don't think anybody thought USC was going to be a cakewalk. I think we all thought that Michigan would be able to out-physical USC on the ground. I still feel like that. And I feel like if Michigan wins on Saturday, it's going to be because of their ground game, not with Davis Warren freelancing and firing the ball all over the place. But I do think they need more than Colston Loveland in the passing game. So that's where I'm at. I've yelled and screamed and talked about it all and how I see it. And now I want to see what the people are saying in the last few minutes here. And so to do that, let's go through and see where people are at. Michigan, go blue. 1, 2, 3, 4. He knows that the D-line will dominate. Ohio State again. OSU not pushed around by Akron on the O-line. Yeah, the part I was watching when I tuned into Ohio State, Smith already had 2 touchdowns, and then he caught one down at the 5. Kind of like they kind of just stuck it in. I was like, wow. But yeah, let's see. It's a long ways away to be talking about Ohio State, but I don't mind that. Will Orgy become the best kick returner in Michigan history? I don't think that they're going to put Orgy on kick return. I know you say that because Harbaugh said that he thought he could be the best kick returner, but the Orgy situation, that's going to continue. People know I am not a fan of randomly dropping a quarterback in and rotating quarterbacks, and it's a headache for me to watch. And I feel like the quarterback position, you need it. So much of it goes with having the confidence and having a rhythm and getting some momentum and having the other 10 players in that huddle around you believe in you, and you're orchestrating it. And what happens when you are there as the quarterback and you're on first down and then second down, you're over on the sideline, and then you got another guy in there and he's coming in and he's telling, I don't like it. But that's what Michigan's doing. They like it. They are dropping Orgy in at different times and for different plays. And I do understand in a short yardage situation, Orgy's 6'3", whatever he is, 250. He's got big hands and a wide back, and he'll lower your shoulder. He'll lower his shoulder, and he'll get you a first down. I get that. Or as they did, they ran a little rollout pass. Perfect. But no reason to dwell on it. I don't like it. But so you're not going to put one of your quarterbacks that certainly is a starter, one that is getting reps, or even your main backup, you're not putting them on special teams. Now, look, John L. Smith did it for Michigan State one year, and it was Drew Stanton, and he tore his knee. And then, he heard about it. So, no, Orgy will not be doing anything on kick return. Richard wants to see Mullings takes less hits, not more. What do I think about Cabana at kickoff? Well, I think that Cabana, in my mind, seems like he would be great on kickoffs because he's fast. He's a track star. He's a speedster. But how does he do catching the ball? How does he do setting up his blocks? How is he reading the players that are coming and pouring in down on him? Now, he was a superb running back in high school. That's all I know about him. And that he's super fast. But there are more things that go into being a kick returner than being super fast and being a great high school running back. So it sounds good to me. Some Michigan scores. Michigan by 3. Michigan by 5. Big Bang Ben needs carries. Yeah, I don't think that Ben Hall needs carries against Texas. Whose carries am I taking away? In a one-score game, if Michigan's blowing them out, all right, you want to put Ben Hall in there? I'm good. I don't think Michigan's going to blow out Texas. I think it's going to be a one-score game. Am I going to take a carry from Mullings away to put Ben Hall in? No. Am I taking a carry away from Donovan Edwards? I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, go ahead. We don't need Donovan Edwards anymore. No, I'm not doing that. That's exaggeration. I don't think people think that. So, no, he needs carries. I think he'll get them against maybe Arkansas State the following week. That's what I think. Rico is saying that it's frightening how hypocritical our own fans are. We thought Ohio fans were crazy for throwing McCord under the bus, and our fans are throwing both of our QBs under the bus and calling them trash in the first game. That's what fans do. Like, if we're trying to put all fans out there and said, oh, hey, let's have fans that are going to hit it right on the nail every time, being able to talk about the team. That's not going to happen. So it's not that frightening. I would say, Rico, it's predictable how fans are. That's how fans operate. That's why, and I'll say this as quick as I can, when it came down to the sign situation, if the shoe was on the other foot and that was Ohio State, Michigan fans would be saying the exact same thing about Ohio State as Ohio State is saying by Michigan. But we know the situation is reversed, and it's Ohio State fans saying things about Michigan. But that's why I look at it as just a lot of this, a lot of drama and a lot of talk and a lot of, bile back and forth and trolling and online. And look, I try to take, if there wasn't a whole lot of enjoyment out of it, but I try to take the enjoyment with it when it comes to all that. But fans mostly are going to be fans. I got a Horn fan. Well, we'll see. I think Michigan is a long day, or Michigan is a live dog. Could be a long day for Texas. Underrated by the press as usual. We will be great on Saturday. Yeah, I don't know if Michigan's underrated. If Richard, if you and I, again, if we were working for, you say the press, who am I working for? The LA Times? I'm looking out at Michigan and say, oh, Michigan lost their entire offense. They're running they're playing a quarterback that's that's come out of nowhere. They lost Harbaugh and the majority of their staff. Yeah, let's get behind Michigan and think that they're going to pull the upset against Texas after they looked pedestrian in the opener. I think it depends who you're talking about. A lot of times the press, you guys start talking about guys that are on the radio and say things just to get calls and for you to talk about them. And a lot of people in the press do the same thing. They need you to read their stories. 23-20. Michigan Lover 12 has Graham and Stewart being players of the game. All right, couple more. That game showed you how important Jimmy was to this team. No, I think if Jimmy, the head coach, is the most important part in college football, and Kirby Smart has won more championships than Jim Harbaugh. But if you told me that if Jim Harbaugh was coming back, that Jim Harbaugh was the best coach in all of college football. So having the best coach in all of college football, or one of the top two, like Dabo's the only coach who hasn't brought in a transfer. He's looked at the portal and he says, no, thanks. That was like Denny Crum back in my day, the head coach at Louisville, saying, we're not going to shoot 3-pointers here at Louisville. We're going to feed the post. That didn't go well for Coach Crum. It's not going well for Coach Sweeney. But Jimmy, having said all that about Jimmy, what was Jimmy going to do on Saturday? If Jimmy was still here, maybe they could have hit the transfer portal, because he would have been, instead of trying to line up a contract and deal with the Chargers and trying to line up a contract and with Ward and all this other stuff. January Jim was in full effect, but if he was coming back here, it could have been different with the quarterback. But what was going to be different? What did you now? Maybe you could say that Michigan should have gone for 2 when they were up 12 points after they scored the touchdown on that drive to make it a 14-point lead instead of a 13-point lead. That's what the chart says. But Moore said that he liked how the defense was rolling, according to him, rolling. And so they decided just to kick it. Good thing that didn't come up. And I don't know. You say good thing it didn't cost him. Look, probably should have gone for 2 there. But is that what Jimmy? Harvey, the left side of our O-line, gave up several pressures on our quarterback. Your thoughts? Mullings should be running back 1. I thought that the pressure, the ones that jump out to me, let me think. There was pressure when El Hadi and whatever, they lost communication, the defensive tackle poured in. That would have been from the right side of the offensive line. Evan Link, I was looking at his PFF scores. He gave up some pressures. So unless you're talking about the left side as no, you're not. No, I thought the left side of the Michigan offensive line was good. Preeb had the one hold. That was a tough one on the run by Donovan Edwards, but that's not what you're talking about on pressures. Link gave up 3 pressures. I don't think Hinton gave up any. So my thoughts are that I don't think that the pressures were from the left side. At least that's not how I remembered it, and that's not how the PFF scores played out. There were pressures from the right side. The El Hadi one, and then Link gave up 3, according to Pro Football Focus. And look, Pro Football Focus has a guy up there looking at every player and grading out each one. Now, maybe you and I, Harvey, could go back and look how it all went down and see what's up. Aaron, I'm with you here. Don't forget to like this video. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. We got a lot of picks for Michigan over Texas. Let's see if we can get some different folks in here. Quentin, with Michigan having little to no passing game, where is this running game going to come from? It's going to be a passing game that has to develop. And you have some things going for you. Now, look, they threw a lot of bubble screens. I like getting the ball to Samaj Morgan on a bubble screen, but it didn't work this game. I also think that Tyler Morris looks pretty good on the bubble wide receiver screen, throwing him. So, and you have a new quarterback, and you thought I don't know if you're simplified the game plan. Let's not have him do too much. When he did air one out, he threw a pick. So maybe that was all part of it. Let's have a pretty safe, easy throws for Davis Warren, and let's play this one. Let's be honest. Let's always be honest. Michigan played that first half like it was a preseason NFL exhibition game, in that there wasn't a whole lot of urgency. They were swapping in a center. They were swapping out the quarterback. They, at one point, took the whole secondary out for a couple series. And I was thinking Will Johnson got hurt. I don't like, rolling like that in game 1 when Texas is game 2, but that's how they did it. So I thought it was interesting. I was listening to, who was I listening to? Pat Forty. And he was watching, I watched the Georgia Clemson game, but I was doing a lot of talking and looking at my phone in the first half, and there wasn't a lot of scoring in the first half. And I watched a lot closer, put the phone down, zeroed in on the game. I watched it more critically in the second half. Georgia looked pretty good. 40 mentioned, and he was probably at the game, that he wasn't impressed by either offense in the first half, and the only thing they were doing is throwing bubble screens. And he said that he had talked to a prominent quarterback in the press box, so he was at the game, at the half, who was complaining about the lack of footballs thrown down the field. Now, when you're talking about the number one team in the country with the one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback, playing it safe against Clemson, just throwing bubble screens, you kind of get that. There's no, again, this is like reason 55 that you like playing a big time opponent in week 2. There's also a list of why you don't want to. And the number one is that you could lose. And, you feel like your season's over. And then you got USC, you feel like that. But no, one of the reasons is you don't have to be saying anything about, well, we were saving some things. Michigan shouldn't be saving anything. There shouldn't be vanilla. This should be a Baskin Robbins playbook. They should be emptying it. They should be going with their very best plays that they worked on all off season with their best players. And that's what they should be putting in against the Longhorns on Saturday. So the development needs to happen big, and that's where the running game, the passing game is going to work. If Texas is loading up on the running game, you got to make them commit to the pass, and then vice versa. They work together. But I'll tell you, from Michigan's standpoint, what makes this Michigan engine go the most is being able to run the football up front more than you would like. I think about the game that they won at Penn State 3 years ago. It was Haskins, Eric All, 55-yarder, bolt of lightning, touchdown. I think about Michigan's best drive on Saturday. It was Donovan Edwards, Orgy, Mullings, Donovan Edwards, Mullings, Loveland, touchdown. That's Michigan. Bludgeon you, tenderize you, run it effectively, pound you, hit you with a pass. That's Michigan football. So that's where the passing game is going to come from. That's what's going to happen. Couple more here. Well, based on what we saw, Quentin, no, Texas will not be respecting Michigan's passing game, with the exception of Colston Loveland. And that's where you need to take advantage if you can. There's big discussions. Watched Colorado State. So, I don't know what you can take from Colorado State. John says that last drive showed him what we could be capable of versus Texas. And with the defense as elite as it is, the offense doesn't have to be perfect. I like this. I like that one, John. John knows football. Jay says, going to need the crowd, the defense, the special teams to score, and the Don to show up, but we can beat Texas. I like that. I like pulling out some different quotes here and everything, too. All right, great job, everyone. I want to tell you how this week is going to go. We're going to have Jim Scarcelli join us on Wednesday. We'll be interested to see what the former Wolverine has. He'll provide some film as well, as will Jerry Diario on Friday, who will join us 2:00 both days. We'll be talking Michigan, Texas. We'll look back on Monday, or we'll look back to Saturday with Scar. We'll look ahead to Saturday with the film, what these guys are thinking about the Longhorns, and how Michigan will fare. We'll continue this over on the Maize and Blue Review on the Den all day and all night, discussing everything under the sun when it comes to Michigan, but most of it under the sun has to do with the burnt orange and Texas as they come to town. First thing that was said to me when I was at the football building today is that this Saturday's ticket, there have been more requests for tickets for Michigan, Texas than there were last year for Michigan, Ohio State. more ticket requests, a hotter ticket for Michigan, Texas than for Michigan, Ohio State. Now, look, that was the last ever for everything with Michigan, Ohio State. Well, there must have been a hell of a lot of requests, but now you've got in Michigan, Texas. It's a doozy. More requests for this one. It doesn't get any better than this game here. We'll see how Michigan fares. We'll have predictions and we'll cover it as best we can heading up to kickoff on Saturday. That'll do it. Talk to you on Wednesday. Talk to you in a couple minutes over on the Maize and Blue Review. So long, everybody. Thanks for watching.